Hey, Noel Capo, and welcome to Shift+F1, a podcast about speedy race cars. That, by the way, is Japanese for the fart of a cucumber.
Oh my God, excuse me?
Apparently that means it's something that's easy to do.
Is it? Is it easy to get a cucumber to fart?
Yeah.
I've been trying my whole life, Drew, and I've still not cracked that one.
Yeah, well, maybe it's like, I was going to say, it's a cinch, like driving the Red Bull car.
Oh yeah, fart of a cucumber, man.
But maybe just like a farting cucumber, it's a lot harder than it seems. I'm not sure. I'm Drew Scanlon.
It's as rare. A driver that can drive that second car is as rare as a farting cucumber. How about
There you
that?
go, Danny.
There we go.
That's Danny O'Dwyer. How are you?
I'm good. I miss Rob. He's not here this week. He's on assignment. But I'm excited to talk about the upcoming Japanese Grand Prix, especially all of the controversy that broke mere hours after we published the previous episode, which just tends to happen.
Yeah, I mean, but we had rumors, and then after we published, we had stronger rumors, and it wasn't until much, much closer to the race itself that we had full confirmation. But that is our one big news story that we will get to in a second. But if you are new to this podcast, a very warm welcome to you. And if you are new to Formula One itself, we recommend listening to our preseason primer episode, which assumes no prior F1 knowledge and explains how the sport works and who everybody is. So if you'd like to go back and listen to that, it's episode 298. Also, this show would not be possible without our audience over at patreon.com/shiftf1, where every month we release ad-free versions of the podcast early to patrons.
It's true.
Along with bonus podcasts and videos that are exclusively for those patrons that cover racing documentaries and films, F1 video games, experiments with other racing series, and a lot of weird things. So if you would like to support the show and get access to all that fun stuff, head over to patreon.com/shiftf1 or click the link in the show notes. What do we have going on this month, Danny?
We reviewed the first 5 episodes of season 7 of Drive to Survive. It is up right now, and this month, because we are now in April. Happy April Fools, Drew. We will be recording the next 5 episodes of the Drive to Survive season 7, which is spoilers. Pretty good, I think. There are some sort of Drive to Survive-y episodes in there that feel a little bit squeezed on factually, but there's also a bunch of really good episodes in there. I think it's a pretty strong season. So if you're interested in that, go check out our Patreon, as well as just countless other exclusive episodes. And like Drew said, all of the podcast episodes have been hitting early over there too. And a massive thanks to all of our incredible title sponsors: Matt and Harmony, Deange, It's a Me, Ferrario, Get Rich O'Die Ryan, Agave ATX, Cypress Training, Turf SCS, at Team Blackjack, Michael Maves, Cigarettes, Olivia Evans, TelemetryDeck.com, FTC, Drew Stewart, Bailey Foot, Jason Chadwick, Abraham Getchell, Bunny Themed, Snigs, Alex Goucher, Max Voltar, Jeff Foster, Troy Stammer, William Rumpf, Lachlan the Maddened Man, Samurai Love Story, and Jason Kelly. Thank you all so much for your incredible patronage of the good car Shift+F1.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, everyone. Should we just jump right into it?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about poor Liam.
Liam Lawson demoted from Red Bull. This is now confirmed. After 2 races, Red Bull has announced that Liam Lawson will be going back down to the RB team, swapping with one Yuki Tsunoda.
My boy, what are they doing to my boy? My best son, Yuki. Why have they forsaken him in front of his home fans, no less?
What do you mean, Danny? They're promoting him.
This is such a weird situation. This is just...
let me just recap on the plot here. So 2024 started with Verstappen and Perez at Red Bull, and Tsunoda and Ricciardo at the sister team, RB. God. So Lawson replaced Ricciardo at RB for the last 6 races of 2024, and then replaced Perez at Red Bull for 2025. So over the first 2 rounds of this year, which include one sprint, Lawson qualified 18th, 20th, and 20th, and then finished DNF 14th and 12th. And in that 12th finish, there were 3 disqualifications.
Yes.
Meanwhile, his teammate Verstappen qualified 3rd, 2nd, and 4th, and finished 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So quite a disparity.
Yeah.
So Red Bull swapped them, and Helmut Marko is saying that Tsunoda is going to finish out the season now with Red Bull.
Helmut Marko should probably just shut up and maybe leave, because Helmut Marko is, I don't know, maybe the original sin of this whole problem. Helmut Marko, who was like going all in 2-footed on get Ricciardo out of there, get Lawson in, Yuki's not good enough, yada, yada, yada. I think Lawson's pace is it definitely describes it when you say how bad he's qualified and his inability to get overtakes done in the races. But you could make these arguments that like, okay, like he doesn't know those tracks very well. You know, the pack is pretty close together now. It's the end of a sort of an era. So you can imagine a world in which somebody comes close to the back, but they're just not getting out of Q3. The problem is his pace is just not there. His pace, he has no confidence in his car at all. We have gone over, you know, every time this happens, the Alex Albon viral interview goes live again everywhere, where people talk about how tetchy that front end is, because that's how Max likes to drive. Even so, you'd expect one of these drivers to be able to sort of get a grip on this thing. At the moment, it looks like Checo Perez was the car whisperer. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if this car has gotten worse, because that's the other thing. If you go back and like look at interviews with Verstappen over the past 2 years, he's talking about how there's aspects of this car's handling which have gotten worse, that he has been battling with as well for years, that he is obviously currently now battling with, because they don't have the pace when he's driving either to be winning races. And he's been sort of raising the flag about this for a long time. And you can kind of see how maybe this whole thing will be upsetting him as well, because he was like happy with Liam and happy to have Liam. He was happy with Checo actually as well. Maybe he's happy with people who are slow, but he seemed to be quite sympathetic to the fact that the car is tricky to drive. And now it's turned from this coveted seat that people want so they can go after Max. You know, let's get a good driver in that second seat so they can challenge for the title. They can challenge for the championship and really put it to Max. It's turned from that into this monkey paw that like kills careers. Like, do we really? Does Yuki Yuki has no choice. He has to go to Red. He can't be banging that drum for years and then suddenly when the seat opens up, go, I think I'll wait around for an Alpine, or I'll wait around for something else. He's got to go for it. But
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but what are we? You know, we're gonna low a lot more next week after this weekend of where that car's drivability is. It's not even an issue of pace. It's just an issue of drivability and having any confidence in it at all.
Yeah, it is an interesting situation, right? Because so Red Bull has done this a lot. I can go through the entire timeline if we want to, but what has happened is they've promoted drivers from the sister team up to Red Bull, and in a lot of cases kicked them back down. And I think that is in some ways, I don't know what the word is, charitable, because they don't kick them out of the sport. And in the cases of Gasly and Albon, I mean, with the exception of Kvyat, I think, right? I think he was just gone. Gasly and Albon went on to have careers elsewhere. You know, they got back to the sister team, to a team that they knew had more time there. Gasly was put into the Red Bull seat with only 26 race starts. And Albon with only 12.
Well, Liam Lawson had how many?
Lawson had 15.
Race starts in Formula One?
Yes.
God,
yeah.
like spread
4
over
of
2
those
years.
were sprints.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Verstappen, for comparison, had 23 when he got boosted up to Red Bull after Kvyat left. But I think for Yuki, you're right. This is really the time to put up or shut up. I don't know that if he flames out at Red Bull, he's going back to the sister team. Like almost certainly that won't happen. But Lawson could be back there and pull a Gasly or an Albon and maybe go somewhere else. Or who knows, even do great back there compared with Hadjar, and go back up to Red Bull. That hasn't happened, right? We haven't done that yet. We've not gone to the sister team, from the sister team to the big team, back to the sister team, and then once again to the big team. I don't think that has happened.
Ricardo was almost that.
He was. You're right.
In a way.
Although he left originally voluntarily.
He did, as did, other junior, drivers like Carlos Sainz who were with the sister team. He was with Toro Rosso when he left to go to McLaren.
True.
So there's what I'm getting at there is there are some very good drivers that Red Bull have not promoted into that second seat for one reason or another. And I don't know. I feel like this whole thing is kind of I can't tell if it's like, it feels like an Aesop's fable or something. It feels like sort of when you put all your eggs in one basket or something like that, or when it's like a mix between the turtle and the hare and some sort of eggs in one basket thing, because Red Bull are I have never seen this. I have never seen a situation where it seems like no other driver is able to get even close to the pace of the other driver, and it doesn't necessarily seem to be entirely down to skill. Like there is something about how that car handles, how it drives, that multiple drivers have said is just too idiosyncratic for me. Like, as much as I've tried to do it, it's just not something I'm able to drive. And I don't know what, like, if Yuki does manage to do it, then everyone's going to be like, wow, okay, I guess maybe
He's
all those...
beginning to believe.
Maybe all those drivers were bad. I don't know. But if he does struggle this weekend, which the good money's probably on, then where does that leave Red Bull? Like, basically a decade and a half of a junior program that has provided drivers for lots of other racers, for other teams, but only one for them. Granted, the one that mattered, so they got away with it, I guess, or maybe it worked out. I don't know. And then a car that really only works with Max that is now maybe floundering. And what does that mean about the 2026? There's already questions over their power unit for next year. So, like, if now we're getting into, man, Red Bull have really lost the... they're lucky. It'll turn into like they crafted this car and Max to they're lucky they have Max because he's able to drive this untamable car.
Yeah,
I don't know.
100%, because it is dire. I think the fact that they booted Lawson after 2 races signifies that.
Which they've said has been to protect him.
So
I don't know about that.
No.
I think you give him a couple more races if you want to protect him. Like, he knows Suzuka. He's driven it in he was driving in Japan for a while. So, like, he knows this one, and it seems particularly brutal. Yeah,
there's some talent quotes here from first from Christian Horner, who says, "We came into the 2025 season," this is from Autosport, "with 2 ambitions: to retain the World Drivers' Championship and to reclaim the World Constructors' title. And this is purely a sporting decision. We acknowledge there's a lot of work to be done with the RB21, and Yuki's experience will prove highly beneficial in helping to develop the current car. We have a duty of care to protect and develop Liam, and together we see that after such a difficult start, it makes sense to act quickly so Liam can gain experience as he continues his F1 career with Racing Bulls, an environment and a team he knows very well." Yeah, that last part is, I think, a lot of spin. I mean, you have put in a lot of money and effort into this young driver, so you don't want to just completely lose all of that. But I think it's key, that first part of this quote where they want to take back the World Constructors title. And after 2 races, I think at this point, this is the upper echelon of motorsport. And if they don't have confidence that their driver can adapt, which we've talked about before, the greats can do very quickly, I think the hard decision has to be made there. So it's brutal, but I think in a pragmatic way, it makes sense.
So we're only 2 races in, and God knows after 2 races into the 2024 season, if I was to make a prediction, I would have had egg on my face very quickly. I don't think Red Bull are anywhere near winning the Constructors' Championship this year. That seems like I guess they need to appear like they're trying to for their, but for the business, the people back in Austria, or for, I don't know, their shareholder. I don't think they care about that stuff. It just seems optimistic given the current situation. I mean, they're steadily third at the moment. Ferrari ended up actually losing a lot of points, so they're actually closer in third than they probably should be. I don't see it. I really, really don't see that at all. I think Verstappen has had a couple of good races, but
but they have to give themselves the best chance they can, right?
Yeah. Do they think maybe with the mini DRS stuff, getting nerfed a bit, that's going to drag them back into it?
I don't know.
That seems like politic. That seems like them just trying to.
Well, it could be the difference between second or fourth in the draft.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
which means millions and millions of dollars.
It does. Also, what millions of dollars you could get is from Honda for putting Yuki in that seat. But
their relationship, they broke up, right? Tsunoda and Honda.
Have they? What I heard that was an offer that had been on the table in the past. But
okay, maybe you can do some searching while I read these.
I assume that hasn't happened here, but yeah.
Helmut Marko quotes here that are sure to make everyone angry. This is from Autosport. Yuki was too inconsistent. That's why we unanimously decided in favor of Lawson, but he wasn't able to perform under the greater pressure right from the first day in Australia. Then he went into a downward spiral. It's like a battered boxer, very difficult to get out of it. From that point of view, it was a mistake to put Lawson in the Red Bull. Yuki is in his 5th year, and experience in such difficult conditions is an enormous factor. Yuki has repeatedly emphasized that he's actually the right man for Red Bull Racing. Apparently, they then gave Tsunoda 2 or 3 simulator sessions after the Chinese Grand Prix, and apparently that helped. We had to act quickly, said Marko, and everything was positive. Also, the technical feedback, which he had often been accused of lacking, that he didn't understand the technical side or couldn't set up a car, that also turned out to be incorrect. If Yuki performs well, then there's a future. If not, maybe there is no more chance in F1 for him.
Helmut, go home. There's no future. Just Dietrich's gone. Get out. Just go. You're not. You shouldn't. You go away. You shouldn't be here. You're a weird guy.
Should his badge still be working?
Yeah, I don't. Look, I don't like this guy, so I'm biased against it. But I don't know. At a certain point.
Yeah, and I read that only to really try to illustrate some thinking here.
No. It's definitely worth. It's definitely worth reading out. But I think he's such a. It completely contradicts what he was saying 4 months ago. I don't think he's the driver whisperer that people have said. I think it's political. I don't know. It seems bad. It seems redundant. Apparently, according to gpblog.com, I pulled this from, because I read this a couple of places around, but I didn't know if it was confirmed necessarily or not. But apparently, it was revealed that Honda had opened its wallet, paying Red Bull millions now that Yuki Tsunoda has been promoted to partner with Max Verstappen. This has been confirmed off the record at one stage, but Helmut Marko has now publicly acknowledged that the manufacturer is making a financial contribution. So they're also driving a Honda, a one-off white livery this weekend.
Yeah.
It's like a crazy Honda tribute. Yeah, it looks great. It'll look better if Yuki Tsunoda pulls off a great quali lap in it. It'll look awful if he doesn't.
Yeah.
So can't wait for this weekend.
Haas got a new Japan-themed livery too, with cherry blossoms on it. Looks pretty great.
Nice. It is Sakura season, I think. So.
Verstappen apparently disagreed with this decision, something that was confirmed by Marko, and sort of implicitly confirmed by Verstappen liking an Instagram post by former F1 driver Guido van der Garde, which said, "I'm getting a bit tired of the comments that F1 is the toughest sport in terms of performances, and when you underdeliver, you've got to face the consequences. Yes, you've got to perform, Yes, the pressure is insane, but in my opinion, this comes closer to bullying or a panic move than actual high athlete achievements. They made a decision fully aware, gave Liam 2 races only to crush his spirit.
Wow.
Max also
Guido
said,
feeling Guido expressing his own sadness at not being
he's,
in F1 anymore.
He's known not to mince words, especially on social media.
Hmm.
Verstappen said, I think if you gave Liam the Racing Bulls car, he'll be quicker. I really think that.
He did say that before the weekend. Yeah, it's we're just in the wait and see period at the moment here. I think I feel bad for everyone involved. Well, I don't feel bad for a lot of people, but I feel bad for Liam and I feel bad for Yuki. It seems like this is the opposite of both of them are in peril. Like Yuki, like you said, is getting the top slot, but Yuki has had multiple years in the sport to prove himself. This is unfortunately putting him into, like you said, a put up and shut up situation. I think, who knows, he runs out the season at RB, he pulls a lot of pace out of that car, does better than his teammate, maybe he's in a better position to negotiate with another team. He goes to Red Bull. I think he already has the sort of stuff stacked against him because he's Japanese, and I think if he ends up getting egg on his face at Red Bull, I think it could damage his career more than it could damage other people's, just because of the perception within the sport. Liam also, I think, has had a tough time of it because he came in with such confidence, and I think I said about this on the Shift F1 review of Drive to Survive we did, is that like I think he needed to be that confident to get into that Red Bull. I think he needed to be, chest out. Some might say arrogant, and I think that's turned some of the F1 fan base against him as well, especially because people really like Ricciardo. So I think in some ways you had this other element within the F1 fandom that's delighted that this has happened to Liam, and I think that's probably going to sting and might carry with him as well. I don't mirror that myself. I think he had to do that. I think Red Bull is the type of place where you need to have that type of character to get in, unfortunately. So we'll have to wait and see. It's so early in the season to be making calls, but they're both in very tricky positions for sure. And outside of that, I just don't know if any other driver, be it a junior driver who's coming up through the formulae, or another driver like a Carlos Sainz or somebody, why would you want to go to Red Bull? Like, it's just a disaster. Like, that second car seems to be cursed, and they clearly don't know what they're doing, and they don't have faith in any other. Perez was the one exception, I guess, that they had, and it was only until it became untenable. But if this is a problem of their own making, it's not going to go away. And who would want to be in that second seat? I think it's going to be very interesting for Red Bull, because with the new regs coming in next year, that's going to shuffle it all over again. And if they end up like a couple of steps behind, I don't know if people are going to have the confidence that they're going to catch up, because their direction of travel has been backwards. And I think last year it seemed like people had caught up, but it does actually look, when you listen to what Max says, it does look that car has gotten worse. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a worry. And especially now the newies, you know what I mean? Like, they've had a lot of changes there too. They've lost engineers, they've lost plenty of people. So it's just, we might be, who knows? We might be looking at just like the resetting of Red Bull's expectations, maybe.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's really our news section. So we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we'll have the track walk. All right, Danny, take us to Japan.
I will. I'll take you back to Japan in 1962, Drew, where one Soichiro Honda, the CEO of Honda, got his buddy, not his friend. I don't know. Were they friends? Probably not. But he got Dutchman John Hugenholtz to make himself a test track in the beautiful countryside of Japan. I don't know where in Japan. I don't know what prefecture.
Oh.
Maybe you can tell
me.
Let me
look that up.
Yes. Large history of motorsport in the 20th century in Japan, and Suzuka was added to it in the 60s, but it didn't actually race. Formula One didn't race there until 1987.
It's located in Ino, Suzuka City, Mie Prefecture.
Classic Mie Prefecture. Thank you very much. It was designed with in a figure of 8 configuration, which is unique
cool.
to Formula One. Very, very cool. They do not drive sort of destruction derby style through that figure of eight. There is
It does go over. Yeah.
it does. There is a
Not
bridge
through.
and an overpass, thankfully. And in the modern era, it did dip out for a while. Between '06 and '09, Fuji was was where they were racing Formula One. But it's been around for most of my lifetime. It's 53 laps, 5.8 kilometers, 6.3 miles. Full of interesting, iconic turns, I would say. It also kind of goes uphill and downhill. It's got a crazy vibe to it, the whole thing. There's the first section is sort of defined by this crazy set of S's, the sort of reminiscent of, I guess Coda kind of stole this one a little bit. The first turn is called First Turn, which is maybe my favorite turn name in all of Formula One. My second
I
favorite,
didn't know that.
yeah, my second favorite turn is probably 130R, which you remember why it's called that, right? It's not the angle, it's the radius of the which is why the R is there, which has given us great high speed. It's probably the fastest high speed turns, I think, up there. After a long straight as well. Great overtake by Alonso and Schumacher there in '05. If you want to see one of the, see how insanely dangerous this sport is. But yeah, it's got a bunch in it. It's got high speed, mid speed turns. It's got a hairpin in there. The Degners are as close as you get to a 90-degree turn in this one. It's pretty flowy. Like, you don't have many hard braking zones here, and I think that's pretty cool. There's one kind of near the end where they get down to the chicane. Yeah, it's there's kind of a lot going for it in terms of corner variety, let's say. The moments we've had in the past as well. This one's given us quite a lot of them because historically this was either the final or near the end of the F1 calendar for a long time. This is where the iconic, the two incidents between Senna and Prost happened here in '89, where they came together before the chicane, and in 1990 when Senna and Prost collided at first turn, let's say. The iconic first championship win from Damon Hill in 1996 with Murray Walker getting a lump in his throat. That happened here as well. Schumacher also won his first Ferrari championship here in 2000. There was a fantastic comeback drive from Kimi Räikkönen in '05. It's a couple of years before he won the championship. Which I bet they have a highlight of that somewhere on the YouTube channel or on.
I'll see if I can find it.
Or if not, it'll be on F1 TV. Really remarkable, sort of like Kimi's coming out party as a serious driver. Really fantastic drive. Kamui Kobayashi got a podium here in 2012. I want to say the only Japanese driver to have gotten a podium, maybe ever. I'm thinking. I'm going to stick my neck out there. I can't think of anyone else at the moment. But obviously, it was a massive deal for the Japanese fans, and if Yuki Tsunoda were to do that, it would be really a turn up for the books. I might swallow my what I've said about Red Bull, but we'll have to wait and see. 2014, we had that crazy typhoon hit it, which ended up pushing the race back a few hours. Rain throughout the race, and this is sadly when we had the death of Jules Bianchi from that terrible crash that happened right there on one of those just after the S curves on the Dunlop curve. He was going up the hill, and there was obviously a truck out there, a recovery vehicle that he crashed into, which led to the halos being introduced in Formula One. That is now, it's crazy to think that's 11 years ago. It feels like it was so close. I mean, we were doing this podcast, weren't we?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was our first or second year. Thank God.
I think it was our first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember watching it live. Absolutely horrific. Thinking we'd never have one again since Senna, but yeah.
Yeah, I turned, it was like on the last lap or something, right? And I remember the race finished and I turned it off, and it was only, I think, on the podcast where you told me what had happened. Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh God. That's terrible. Yeah, it was there's a couple of things have changed since then as well with regard to when helicopters can, be able to if the red flags happen because of the ability to get the emergency services in there, all that sort of stuff. So yes, unfortunately that, and then we've had problems there since with recovery cars on track when it was raining as well, which hopefully won't happen this weekend. Max won a championship here in 2022 as well. So yeah, it's an iconic track. I think it's the vibes are always good there. Japanese crowds are awesome. And we've a sort of an extra bit of spice this weekend with Yuki and the Red Bull. There's definitely going to be a lot of anticipation, a lot of eyes on him. In a way, there always would be on a home driver, of course, like Checo in Mexico and any Japanese driver here. But certainly a lot more eyes on him, a lot more pressure, a lot more hope for him going into this race weekend.
Yes, indeed. Should we take it to the form book?
Let's do it. The form book. Drew's form book.
Yeah. Does need a jingle.
Music. I know.
Last 5 winners in starting with the most recent. Verstappen, Bottas, and Hamilton.
Is that why you got your Williams hat on?
That's right. Yep. He was racing for Mercedes at the time. Because those last 2 were from 2019 and 2018 because we did not race here in 2021 or 2020 due to the COVID. This is not a particularly good or bad track for everyone. It's kind of just like it's kind of mid.
Yeah.
Red Bull does tend to do well here. Ferrari does all right. Mercedes does all right. This is actually one of Sauber's best tracks.
Hell
apparently.
Yeah. Nice.
In the last few years. But as far as where drivers finish, Verstappen, Leclerc does well here. Hamilton historically has done pretty well. And I have rated this race the past 2 years a 2 out of 4.
Okay.
So we've had some strategy races. So,
right.
So I am expecting a mid kind of a race.
Expect mid, and then you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, and hopefully that translates well for Yuki. Maybe.
Yeah. Look. The pack is dense, so there will be fights happening. I would hope. We haven't had an overabundance of overtaking in China. Like we did last year, but I think there's enough happening there that you would hope that there will be some spots for people to overtake here and not just all going down the back straight. There's kind of only one straight here as well, I should mention. It's on the start finish straight is kind of it. I guess technically I shouldn't say that. There are 2 straights. The one leading into 130 is the other one, but it does not have DRS.
Okay.
Because that turn is fast enough as it is.
Yeah. I am drawing a blank here on my
weather. There's no weather
forecast.
There's no weather happening.
Zero weather.
We don't like that.
I might have to come back to you on that one.
No worries.
Also not a high attrition rate here. Last 5 races have had an average of 2 DNFs, which is pretty low.
There's a lot of gravel here. Like there's a lot of places you can go at. It is almost it is kind of interesting that there hasn't been more DNFs. Like some spots, like I think on the entry into that back straight has a decent amount of runoff on it, but like lots of areas that you might go off or you might be bumped off, like Dunlop and the Degnas and places like that do have gravel traps in them. I think maybe the first turn doesn't as well. Maybe that has some runoff in it. I don't know. This it might all come down to the weather. That might be a big aspect of it. But yeah, I can see there's not many. I mean, 130R was a corner that they were particularly sort of in the safety era were particularly worrisome about because there has been some terrible incidents there. I think it was at not MotoGP, but I think a bike rider died there a number of years back. It's just super, super, super high speed. If anything goes wrong, you're kind of you're straight into the wall there. So I think they extended that out as well, runoff wise.
Okay. Heading into this round, the Drivers' Championship looks like this. Lando Norris is on top with 44 points. Max Verstappen just 4 points behind. I'm sorry, 8 points behind with 38. George Russell is in third with 35. I'm sorry, I really messed that up. Norris has 44. Verstappen is 8 points behind with 36. And George Russell's 1 point behind him with 35. Then we've got Oscar Piastri in fourth with 34. 12 points back is Kimi Antonelli in fifth with 22. He's 6 points ahead of Alex Albon in the Williams in sixth place. And then Esteban Ocon in seventh with 10 points, tied with Lance Stroll. Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc are in ninth and 10th with 9 and 8 points respectively. And we've got Hulkenberg, Behrman, Tsunoda, and Sainz in 14th, the last with any points. And then the zeros of Gasly, Hadjar, Lawson, Doohan, Bortoleto, and Fernando Alonso. Constructors' Championship, McLaren is on top with 78 points. Mercedes is in second with 57. There's a 21 point gap between McLaren and Mercedes and Red Bull, who's in third place with 36 points. Then a tie between Williams and Ferrari with 17 points apiece. Gene Haas and team is in sixth with 14 points. Aston Martin's in seventh with 10. Kick Sauber, we got sent a... I'm going to look this up, but we got sent a New York Times article about Kick and Stake and how, first of all, I don't think we realized that Stake, the betting platform, owns Kick or like financed them.
I think I knew that.
Okay. But the article in the New York Times is basically about how like people are live streaming vigilantism on there.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I bet I know what type as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, that streaming platform is the dark zone. That's basically where it's the runoff of Twitch. It's like if you can't do this on Twitch, like betting or accosting
It's just
people
about free
at Best
speech,
Buy.
Danny.
So, oh my God, this is so depressing watching these betting streamers. It's absolutely grim. They're just begging their followers for like an extra $100 so they don't ask for $100. They ask for like 5,000. Like, spot me, man. You can watch these people. It's grim.
Okay, Kai sent this New York Times article in. I will the the headline is online quote pedophile hunters growing more violent
PDF
and
file
going viral.
You didn't say it. You're gonna get kicked off YouTube.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want to know the weather?
Racing Bulls is in ninth with 3 points, and Alpine has 0 points. Yeah, you got the weather?
I do.
Great.
Google was also doing that same thing for me. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
It just wasn't displaying the weather. So I went to another website.
Okay.
So Friday, generally clear, highs of 16 degrees centigrade. You're going to have to do some conversion here for me, man. 16, I think, is 60. I think that's how I always do it. 16 is 60. Precipitation chance of 3%. So not very high. 11 mile an hour winds. Saturday is very similar. High of 16. Slightly less wind, 8 miles an hour, and partly cloudy. 13% chance of rain. But Sunday, Drew.
Oh.
69.
Nice.
% chance of rain. Showers is what they have written here. Showers. High of 18 degrees centigrade. Less winds. Chance of rain 70%. Sorry, it says. Here,
oh wow.
70.
Okay, we've upgraded. 16 Celsius is 60 Fahrenheit.
I was right. That's what I said. 16
I thought
is 60.
I thought you said 80. And 18 is 64.
16 60 is how that's my little check-in with my brain. So if it's 18, I'm like, it's like 66
plus.
or something.
Okay.
So it could, odds are it's going to rain is what they're saying. But then Monday is sunny. So the only time it looks like it's going to rain is Saturday night, Sunday morning. So if Saturday night, Sunday daytime. So if that shifts, later or earlier, it might not be a wet race. But
okay,
odds are at the moment it's looking wet. It's looking wet.
All right. Well, if you'd like to join our fantasy league, you can use the link in the show notes. You can also send us an email at shiftf1podcast@gmail.com or f1.cool/emails. Apologies for such packed episodes in the past, but now we've got an email slot open here, and we're going to fill it, starting with Alex.
Let's fill the slot.
Who says, "Hi, Shift F1 team, first time, long time, etc. I was in my gym in London the other day after the F1 launch event at the O2.
Wow, fucking flexing already here in the first line of the email.
Remember, well, Alex just says he was in the gym.
He's in the gym, man. He went to
the
the
day
launch
after
events?
the F1 launch, not that he actually went to.
Oh, okay.
the
I'm
launch.
sorry. Okay.
On the gym floor, I saw this kind of short guy on the cross trainer, and there was a spark of recognition.
Oh my
I
God.
subtly headed to get a better view, and oh my, it was none other than Max Verstappen's new teammate.
Oh.
I'm not an
Lawson?
autograph hunter and would normally never approach a celebrity for a photo or anything, but here was one of only 20 people in the world who were actively participating in the sport I love. He's talking about Liam Lawson. I waited
Is he, or is he talking about Yuki Tsunoda?
This was, the launch event. I waited for an appropriate moment and went up to say hi. He was friendly enough, but clearly didn't want to be interrupted too much. I asked how the previous night's launch event had been. Quote, "It sucked," he stated, staring into the distance. I got a photo and wished him the best of luck for the season and held up my fist, which he dutifully bumped. And now I look at him. I will never fist bump a sports personality ever again for fear of ruining their career.
What have you done?
Better safe than sorry. Love your work, Alex. Thank you, Alex.
Nice work, Alex. Yeah. Sorry for, thanks for cursing Liam. Stay away from my boy Yuki. Stay away from my best son.
No more fist bumps.
I know. Oh my God. There you go. He's just hanging out.
Yeah.
Must be a nice gym.
Danny, you want to take this next one from Andrew?
Sure. Andrew says, "Hey guys, been listening to podcasts for a few years now and I feel pretty comfortable with most technical aspects of the sport, but I realized watching the sprint qualifying for the Chinese Grand Prix that I didn't understand how slipstreaming or tow worked in the context of ground effect cars. I know the cars kick up a lot of turbulence in their wake and make stuff like passing difficult, so is there some critical distance where this becomes nullified? I feel like I still hear turbulence talked about in the context of car racing extremely closely, so I'm unsure if there's this is just a very specific sweet spot or if there is really only something you can do in qualifying when everyone has their rear wings open all the time. I know sometimes cars from different teams aren't coordinating, I'm guessing that says, and sometimes talk about giving someone a tow. I guess I finally become enough of a technical sicko that all of this is fascinating to me. Thanks in advance for the insight, Andrew." So my answer to this, I don't think the aspect of the cars having the ground effect nature of this really has much of a difference at all.
They did this they did the ground effect thing to try to curb this.
To curb maybe how much of a boost you would get from it. Let me just firstly explain the sort of slipstream versus dirty air thing, because I think this trips up a lot of people. Slipstream and dirty air are the same thing. The problem when we talk about one and we talk about the other, slipstreaming is when you were behind a car on a straight, let's say, and they are ahead of you and you are behind them, and because they are punching through the air, you have to, you are not up against as much of that force, and that you are essentially able to ride the air behind that car to gain an advantage. That air is dirty, but on a straight, it doesn't really matter that it's dirty. It's only in the turns that is dirty, and then people tend to refer to it as dirty air in the turns because it's having a negative impact, a net negative impact on the car, whereas on the straights we call it slipstreaming because it's basically having a net positive impact on the car. So you want to be behind the car on the straights, you don't want to be behind the car on the curbs. In terms of how much the ground effect in particular affects this, I guess you're right in saying that because the cars have ground effect, that they're able to at high speed basically have more, I don't know, is the grip giving them more speed on the straights, or does that nullify the advantage you would get from slipstreaming? I guess that could be true. The question he's asking is whether or not there is a sort of a sweet spot behind the cars. I'm sure there is, but I don't think the fact that the cars are ground effect now has changed that or made it bigger or smaller. I don't see that as being the case. I'm sure you don't want to be too far behind because you're not going to get as much of the, punching through the air as you'd like, but you obviously don't want to be too close either because then you can't see the corners and there's a car in front of you. So, and you can't judge braking probably as well is probably more important than anything else.
Yeah, I think the new regulations, new. It's the most the ground effect regulations, I think, were meant to aid the cars in dirty air because the ground effect gives you more aerodynamic grip, and they also simplified the front and rear wing elements to reduce the level of turbulence, because the more complex those elements are, the crazier the wind gets. In the most recent Team Torque episode on Williams' YouTube channel, where Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz just chat with each other, they are talking about the fact that people don't know that, a car goes through, and it's like 4 seconds ahead of you. You can still feel that on a qualifying lap.
Right.
So yeah, it's certainly still a thing. The ground effect cars haven't nullified that completely. But yeah, I think that the main point is that it's really the difference between, as you said, Danny, slipstream and dirty air is context.
Yeah.
Okay. This is from Scott, who writes, F1 needs to be more like the NHL.
Cool. All right.
More fights. No. With regard to stewarding and review of penalties, this season F1 hasn't had to make too many judgment calls on penalties, with the only two being Duan's 10-second for forcing a driver off track in China and Antonelli's 10-second pit lane penalty in Australia that was reversed. But both of these would have been excellent opportunities to explain the steward's thinking in line, like the NHL Board of Player Safety does in their reviews. Whenever the NHL decides to issue supplemental discipline to a player, they have a hearing and publish a, quote, educational video explaining the rationale behind their decision. These videos are great because they explain to the player and fans exactly what the punishment is and the reasons why they came to the decision. These succinct videos show multiple camera angles of the incident and explain the factors that are taken into account when making the ruling. And a bullet point list here: the specific violation of the rules and whether the conduct is intentional or reckless, if the play involved an injury to another player, if the violator is a repeat offender, the situation in which the incident occurred, and other relevant factors. And then Scott links to a video from last season, which I will put in the show notes. F1 should take the time to produce similar videos on its stewards' decisions. They could show the incident using the multiple cameras they have access to, explain what rule was broken, how it affected either other drivers, e.g. damage to other cars, how often a driver had been cited for similar infractions, the state of the race, first lap incident, and car data, opening up the steering wheel, braking data, all to justify the penalty given to the driver. It would help fans, teams, and drivers know exactly what is acceptable driving and what crosses the lines. It still allows everyone to argue about whether it was the correct decision, but at least everyone would understand the reasoning behind it. Love the podcast, Scott. I love this idea.
Yeah.
To be clear, it's the FIA that issues these decisions. So it wouldn't be F1 creating
which may be part of the problem.
Stuff.
And also it's just like, what would be the benefit, right? Is that they're basically opening themselves up to scrutiny on this, because there will be incidents that happen. Like, I'd love to see the video after Michael Massey got those 5 cars to go around in Abu Dhabi. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, ugh. Like, why was the justification of this? A phone call you had or a meeting you had with everyone before the race? I don't know if that is enough. So yeah, I think it looks cool. I just watched one of the NHL ones there. It looks really interesting. It looks like one of those sort of like officer involved shooting videos that police departments put out, where they're like trying to curtail the story. It's like, this is why we made this decision. So I'm sure it also, there are situations where there are bad calls and people are like, well, make one about that, and they tend not to. I mean, yeah, like any increased transparency into decision making would be helpful, but it also probably doesn't help that they swap stewards every race. You know what I mean? Like that's so you are getting inconsistent levels of or adjudications because of that just on its own. But yeah, I'd love this. I would also love this too. There's very little chance they'd do it.
Yeah. Dan, you want to take this next one?
Sure. Matt writes in, "Hey, Shift+F1 podcast. Big fan, long-time listener. I look forward to your podcast every week when the season starts." Thanks so much, Max. We look forward to your ears listening to it. Rob brought up the new streaming service experience, available for the F1 TV Premium subscription. After hearing all of the new features and views available, I needed to share how I watch races. I have the Pro subscription since F1 TV started. Within the last couple of years, I have learned of an open source free application called MultiViewer. It's MultiViewer, that app, which allows you to log into your F1 TV subscription and then open multiple windows, giving you options of which views you want to see. The app also has an enhanced aggregated view, which view that will show a transcript of the driver's radio messages in real time, as well as microsector times. There are many more features. You will have to check them out for yourself. To my knowledge, the app gets all this data through F1 TV streaming API that has no public documentation. At the moment, since the app requires an F1 TV subscription to work, it is not stealing any profits from F1. It kind of is a gray area. That may change depending on the direction of F1 TV, I guess. The one downside is that I have to watch races on my computer, but with a good triple monitor setup, it is a sacrifice that I am willing to take. The app has beta functionality with the streaming services for IndyCar, NASCAR, and FIA WEC. I have not used any of them. I would expect similar features. Rob did mention it would be great to have more information for endurance racing. Keep up the good work. And that's from Max. Matt, sorry. Thank you, Matt. Thank you very much. Yes, MultiViewer is often brought up in the Shift+F1 Discord, and you'll often see screenshots from the radio message ticker, as it were. I've never used it myself.
No, I haven't either. I actually just upgraded to F1 TV Premium and would love to check this out as well. Really just go full data sicko.
Full sicko, exactly. Yeah. Welcome to the sicko realm.
So I'll check that out maybe for Japan and report back.
Awesome.
All right, last email here from Tim. Hi, Danny, Drew, and Rob, longtime listener, first-time caller. I was hooked into motorsports through the podcast, and my interest in Formula One expanded to the other forms, including NASCAR, IndyCar, Shift plus IndyCar when. I was curious what would happen if I adopted the F1 calendar using their race name formula, that is the formula that IndyCar uses and NASCAR, of race sponsor plus race distance. So,
okay.
Like the Pennzoil 400 or whatever.
Okay.
The results are below. It was interesting to see specifically who was sponsoring each weekend and how they were spread amongst the calendar. Also, thinking about these races in terms of distance and not just laps makes me appreciate the lengths of the drivers go to inside the cockpit. Keep up the good work. Looking forward to Yuki's debut in the Red Bull at the Lenovo 307.
It doesn't have the same ring to it, does it?
Yeah. Note the races inside the United States use miles instead of kilometers because they absolutely would. So thank you very much, Tim, for the diligence there. All right, so here we go. Australia would be the Louis Vuitton 306.
That is the most Formula One named race you could Well, okay, there's probably going to be a lot of them.
Yeah. China is the Heineken 305. Japan's the Lenovo 307. Bahrain...
It would have to be the Heineken Zero, probably, for everyone else around the world to talk about it.
That's true. Bahrain is the Gulf Air 308. Saudi Arabia is the STC 308. Miami is the Crypto.com 191.
Oh, gosh. 191.
The ML around in Emilia Romagna is the AWS Made in Italy 309.
I didn't know Amazon was made in Italy. That's cool.
Yeah. Monaco's the Tag Heuer 260.
Yeah, makes sense.
Let's see. Spain is the Aramco 307. Canada's Pirelli 305. Austria's MSC Cruises 306.
How is Austria, a landlocked country, the MSC Cruises?
Great Britain is Qatar Airways 306. So, yeah, none of this makes sense.
A lot of 306s.
Belgium is the Moe and Shandon 308. Hungary, another Lenovo, a Lenovo 306.
Wow.
And Netherlands, another Heineken 306. Italy is the Pirelli 306. Qatar
Nice.
Airways 306 is Azerbaijan. Singapore Airlines 306. United States MSC Cruises 191. Yeah, we got a lot of repeat sponsors here. Mexico City 305. MSC Cruises 305 is Brazil. Las Vegas, another Heineken 192. Qatar Airways 306. And finally, Abu Dhabi is the Etihad Airways 306.
So there's two Qatar Airways 308, and the other one was 306. Also, a lot of the races are 308 and 306
Yeah.
kilometers. There you go. Maybe more of them because I'm not willing to convert miles to kilometers.
Yeah. Well, I think they all are the same distance, right? It's just a matter of
Yeah. Well, I mean, the lap the individual laps are different sizes, so sometimes they drift, right?
right. Yeah. With the exception of Monaco.
Like China's 305 because that's a pretty long lap.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks,
That's
Tim.
great.
Love it.
Shift F1
we
podcast.
we should keep our regular names, I think.
Shift+F1podcast@gmail.com or f1.cool/emails. You can also hit us up on the socials using the link in the show notes. That's us around the internet. Do you want to take it around the world of racing, Danny?
Let's race around the world.
All right. Well, thankfully, not everyone is in Japan this weekend because, boy, does that really mess with the dates.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. I have not queued up the NASCAR family of races yet. All right. The NASCAR Xfinity Series is in Darlington, South Carolina.
Oh, my darling.
For the Sport Clips Haircuts VFW Help a Hero 200.
Wow. Get your haircut, help a hero. Something else in the middle there. Good
Yeah.
times.
No trucks this weekend.
Oh.
Let's see. Motocross Grand Prix is in Italy for the MXGP of Sardinia.
Ooh.
Gosh, is that it? And then we've got NASCAR for the...
Darling.
They're also Darlington for the Goodyear 400.
It's going to be a good year, folks. You've been watching the news. You already know it. It feels like a good year.
And Formula One, maybe you've heard of it. Things kick off Thursday, April 3rd. These are Pacific times.
One of these.
Yeah, these are Pacific times just to keep things sane here. If you're East Coast, just add 3 hours. Thursday, April 3rd, Free Practice 1 kicks off at 7:30 p.m. on ESPN News, followed by Free Practice 2 at 11 p.m. on ESPN 2. Friday, April 4th, Free Practice 3 is at 7:30 p.m. on ESPN News and qualifying at 11 p.m. On Friday. And finally, the race, everyone, Saturday at 10 p.m. Pacific time on April 5th on ESPN. Yeah.
Fun. I'm going to be, I think, on a flight to Sweden.
Whoa.
For some, if not all of that. It's not a 30-hour flight, but a lot of it. So hopefully I'll be able to watch some. Do you have the Swedish to Stockholm times there?
I do not. I'm sorry.
Okay, I have to look it up myself then.
Yeah. Ugh. Well, I'll stay tuned to the socials for the calendar post.
Yes, I use it weekly. Thank you.
I also do. I refer back to it myself. All right, that's what's going on this weekend. Danny, what happened on this day in the past?
On this day in the past, April 2nd, in 1978, Mario Andretti won most races with Lotus, but when he didn't win, Ferrari invariably did. Today in 1978, Carlos Reutemann won the United States Grand Prix West at Long Beach, California for the Prancing Horse team. His teammate Gilles Villeneuve looked to be heading for his first win, but he crashed out while trying to pass back markers. That's gotta suck. Rudderman spun as well, but survived to win by just 10 seconds ahead of rival Andretti. By just 10 seconds, man. Fernando Alonso wrapped up his 10th F1 victory at the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne today in 2006. He was joined on the podium by Kimi Räikkönen in second and Ralf Schumacher in third. It was the last time the German would ever make it onto the rostrum. Always the bridesmaid, Ralf Schumacher. All
right. Well, final thoughts, Danny, heading into Japan.
All eyes on Yuki and Liam. That's what I know. That like, it's great. People are gonna be, looking for the who's gonna win and yada 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 yada. But like, it's going to be very funny that I think the biggest story of this weekend for everyone is going to be watching, two non-title contending drivers, eking it out for lap time. God, there's going to be so many eyes on practice. It's wild.
Yeah. Well, if you'd like to support the show and get access to all of our bonus episodes, the early ad-free version of the podcast, and the official Shift+F1 Discord, you can do so over at patreon.com/ShiftF1. Have a good race weekend, everyone. We will see you all next week.